You know, we all struggle with temptation. Sometimes it's not a lack of conviction. Sometimes it's not a lack of self control. Sometimes it's simply a lack of faith. We tell God that we will trust in Him, that we'll put our lives in His hands, that we will let go completely, lay it all at His feet, to leave our worries with Him. And very rarely do we actually do it. Most of the time, when we give Jesus the wheel, the moment the ride seems to get bumpy or takes an unexpected turn, we yank the wheel right back. We take over. We don't let Him lead us in the direction that He wishes for us to go, and so we go astray. We make the wrong turns. And because of that, we fall back into the same problem time and time again. A cycle of falling in, shame, mourning, and then eventually returning, hopeful, falling again, claiming to have faith without truly putting our faith in Him. You know, faith isn't simply saying you have faith in Him or believing in the moment. I've recognized that it's a lot like when you try to stop swearing. You know, we are told to think before we speak, to bridle our tongue, to control it. Now, how do you do that? It means that you have to be conscious every single time you go to speak. And after a while of that continuous practice, it becomes easier. And as long as you keep up the practice, you're not going to fall back in unless you start slipping up and then you go right back into it again, just like an addiction. The same goes with faith. You know, you could go an entire day having complete faith in Him. But why? Because the day was a good one. It was easy. You had no conflicts, no problems. Everything was going your way. It makes it really easy to be faithful in those times, huh? But it is especially hard to keep faith, to keep Him and His plan in mind whilst you're going through trouble. So it's a practice of being able to keep up said faith when things are not going your way. And it can be very difficult, especially for addictions like adult entertainment. You fall to a moment of anxiety, of boredom, or just not thinking. Yeah, if you have this issue, I'm sure you know what I mean, where it's just this automatic from point A to point B after you see something. If you are not constantly throughout the day reminding yourself that God has a plan, you are going to be attacked, don't fall for it, you will. You're not constantly keeping your guard up. You're not keeping the armor on at all times. And I know that sounds exhausting to constantly think about it before you do anything. But yeah, no one said it was going to be easy. And for things like adult entertainment, those kinds of sins, it's going to be especially hard because you're going to have to go at it for a long time before it becomes natural. Before it becomes natural to put your faith in Jesus and in God. It's a very strong temptation. There's a reason why God says through His Word that this is the one sin you have to run away from. And that makes it especially hard Because we're used to fighting everything else. We're used to enduring, having self-control, being able to resist it, even though it's right in front of our face. But with the sin of lust, if you allow it to come on your screen or in your mind, it is a cancer, and it'll spread real fast. How about lying? It's the same thing. You have to be conscious every time you go to speak. You'll recognize the impulse, whether you're saying something to try and defend yourself, to hide yourself from conflict, or because you wanted to spice up your story or whatever else. If you're not consciously being aware of what you're saying at all times until it becomes natural, you're not going to overcome it. Same thing with anger, resentment, jealousy. When you think about it, every sin has two issues that come to light, more so than self-control and a lack of conviction. It's awareness, consistent awareness, having your guard up, and having faith that God has a plan for you, that God will guide you through this, that if you listen to God, He will lead you in the right direction, and that even if you fall, He's not going to give up on you. And I know a lot of us have this issue. I know one verse in the Bible hurt me pretty bad for a while because I took it to heart in the wrong way. It says, "Those who love me keep my commandments." And I think to myself, well, I have a lust problem. You know, even if I'm not doing anything physically, I still see it, you know. Whoever looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in their heart. That's a commandment. Whoever's angry with their brother has committed murder in their heart. That's another commandment I've broken. So I would get stuck thinking, well, maybe I don't love Jesus. Maybe I don't love God because I keep breaking these commandments. And He says those who love Him keep them. So what's wrong with me? The problem is I took that verse out of context. And that can be very dangerous. It can lead many astray. And I would caution you from doing so. Pay very close attention to what the entire chapter says. Cross-reference, compare and contrast. Sometimes you need that to get the full picture of what the message is, because the Bible will not contradict itself. It'll simply bring more clarity to the things that are harder to understand. So if one chapter isn't making sense to you, or you feel convicted in a certain kind of way, make sure to check through the sources of the Bible to make sure you're taking it in the right way, because there are so many variations of the same teaching for a reason, so that those who are truly seeking will find the truth. All it takes is a little bit of effort, a little bit of faith, And I am confident that if you can learn to pray throughout the day, to keep Him on your mind, to hold on to your faith through every moment of every day, you keep your eyes on the ball. You keep your awareness up. You stay sober and watch. You will get past this. And when He comes back, He will look at you and say, "Good and faithful servant, I know you, welcome in." Don't lose sight of the ultimate goal. God loves you. I love you.